Hello everyone, my name is Gabby, and in this opportunity I'm going to talk about a really interesting topic is the story of approaches and methods through the time. I believe that it's really necessary and helpful for us because as we know everybody here wants to be a teacher in the near future. So now let's start with how did the approaches methods origin. Firstly, when the language teaching profession developed in the 20th century, several methods were proposed, each attempting to be more effective and theoretically sound. However, the history of English language teaching begins in the 19th century with the grammar translation method, in a time when the teaching of foreign language was equal to learning Latin or Greek. So, a faculty commit reviewing application for a test or graduate program so has statement from another applicant indicating in his document the goals he wanted to be admitted to discover or more ambitiously develop a career in the field of English language teaching as a second or foreign language. Several commit members expressed the impatience and frustration. For this reason, here there are some approaches and methods that now we can know. For this reason, but what are approaches and methods meaning or what are they? These two words, method and approaches, are often confused due to their similar meaning. A method is more specific than an approach, but less specific than a technique. As I mentioned, this word is very confused, but the difference is in degree of flexibility. A method is a way of teaching with established objectives and guidelines and leave a teacher little rooms for maneuver. An approach is a way of teaching and its principle can be applied in many ways. A method is more specific than I mentioned before than an approach, but less specific than a technique. Here are three keys example of method between the 1970s and 80s we associate with humanity language learning. The silent way, as the name suggests, is a method based on the idea that teachers should be silent as much as possible and learners should be encouraged to speak. Community language learning. The second, community language learning assumes that the students are people with feeling and that learning happens when they don't feel created. The teacher takes on the role similar to a counselor and gradually encourages students to become more independent and collaborate more recently. Suggestipedia. Suggestipedia is based on the idea that learning first by teaching an optimal state of a relaxation. In this state of relaxation, learning is meant to happen accidentally and naturally. The direct method was introduced in the late 19th century, teaching exclusively in the foreign language and focusing on speaking and listening. In an attempt to give a more scientific foundation to language teaching, other methods such as situational language teaching were created, although the real change emerged with the audiolingual method. In the 1950s, the audiolingual method or antilingualism was based on physiological theories of behaviorism. According to behavior people, behavior depends on a pattern of stimulus response and feedbacks. And learning a language means using that language communicatively to form new habits and get rid of old habits. From the first language lesson in audiolingualism, focusing on drills in which students repeat the same target language items again and again. This was in line with behaviorism because it involves stimulus providing by the teacher or a tape of a response provided by the learning and feedbacks provided again by the teacher. In the 19th, uh, another new orientation to language teaching emerging called humanistic language teaching. Humanistic language teaching is based on the idea that the whole social and emotional human being and not just the mind should be involved in the learning a language. So, the more recently, other innovative methods have written, such as dogma, which encourages to teach without textbook and to focus on the language that emerges from conversation. Finally, we see the importance of approaches and methods in the following. A method is the way of looking at technique, teaching, and learning. Behind each approach to language teaching lies a theoretical vision of that language is and how it is learned. Approaches create methods, that is, ways of teaching that use classroom activities or methods to help the student learn. In the end, the most used, I think, is in my own opinion, is a humanistic learning teaching because it's based on the idea that whole social and emotional human being and not just mind should involved in learning language, and I really agree with that because the emotion in our student could be defined how they can learn. So guys, in this moment I can say that is all for me. I think this topic is really big for to explain, but I know with this I can give a little bit piece of this topic, and I need um, that's help you. Well, thank you for your time, and we watch another time.